Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UEC Defiance, watching the stars through the main window. The ship moved slowly through space toward the Kepler 442 system. His crew of 20 humans worked quietly at their stations. They had been traveling for 3 weeks now, following orders from Earth to map this distant star system. Jake rubbed his tired eyes. He was 42 years old and had been commanding ships for 15 years. But he always felt like he was walking on thin ice. The alien races that controlled the galaxy watched every move humans made. They decided where humans could go and what they could do. It had been this way for almost 200 years. "Captain, we're getting close to the 4th planet," said Lieutenant Carol Davis from her station. She was the ship's navigator, a young woman with short brown hair and steady hands. "The scans show something strange on the surface." Jake moved to look at her screen. The planet below was mostly rock and ice, with no signs of life. But there was something else. A metal structure sat in a deep valley, half buried in the ground. It looked very old. "What do you think it is?" Jake asked. "I don't know, sir. But it's not natural. Someone built it a long time ago." Jake made a decision. "Take us down. We need to see what this is." The Defiance landed near the strange structure. Jake took 5 crew members with him to explore. They wore thick suits to protect them from the cold air. The structure was huge, maybe a mile long, and covered in strange symbols. Dr. Amy Carter, the ship's science officer, ran her scanner over the metal walls. She was a thin woman with gray hair who had studied alien technology for 20 years. "Captain, this is incredible. The metal is unlike anything I've seen. And these symbols, they're not from any known alien race. Could it be human?" asked Sergeant Ryan Brooks, the team's engineer. He was a big man with strong arms who could fix anything. "That's impossible," Amy said. "Humans only reached the stars 200 years ago. This thing is thousands of years old." But as they explored deeper into the structure, they found a chamber with strange machines still working. In the center was a crystal that glowed with soft blue light. When Amy touched it, the crystal began to show images in the air. The images told a story that made Jake's blood run cold. They showed a great human civilization that had once ruled the galaxy. Massive ships filled with humans traveling between the stars. Beautiful cities on hundreds of worlds. But then came the war. The images showed the reptilian Zarkons and the insect-like Vex High working together. They attacked human worlds one by one. They destroyed entire planets. They killed billions of humans. The few survivors were scattered across the galaxy, their memories wiped clean, their history erased. "This can't be true," Ryan whispered, but the crystal showed more. It revealed that the aliens had lied to humanity for 2 centuries. They had made humans believe they were weak and primitive. They had kept humans trapped in their own solar system while they enjoyed the fruits of human worlds. The final image showed a map of the galaxy with dozens of hidden locations marked. These were secret human bases, built by the survivors before they went into hiding. The bases contained ships, weapons, and technology that could change everything. Jake's hands shook as he copied the data from the crystal. "We have to get this back to Earth. Admiral Kane needs to see this." Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Lisa Kane sat in her office looking at reports from human colonies. The news was getting worse every day. The Zarkons had started something they called population management. They were forcing humans to move from their homes. They were deciding who could have children and who could not. Lisa was 55 years old and had gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. She had fought her whole life to protect humanity, but the aliens always had the final say. She felt helpless watching her people suffer. Her assistant, Colonel Sam Torres, knocked on her door. "Admiral, We just received a priority message from the colony ship New Horizons. Lisa looked up. The New Horizons carried 50,000 human civilians to a new world. What's their status? Sam's face was grave. They're gone, Admiral. A Zarkron enforcement fleet destroyed them. They claimed the ship was in restricted space. Lisa felt something break inside her chest. 50,000 innocent people. Men, women, children. All dead because they wanted to find a new home. The Zarkans sent a message, Sam continued. They say humans are expanding too fast. They want to cut our colony program in half. Lisa stood up and walked to the window. She could see the lights of New Geneva, Earth's capital city. Millions of humans lived there, working hard, following the rules, trying to survive in a galaxy that seemed to hate them. How many more will die? She asked quietly. Admiral, how many more of our people will they kill before we say enough? Before Sam could answer, another message came through. This one was from Captain Morrison on the Defiance. Lisa read it twice, then 3 times. The artifact. The images. The proof of what the aliens had done. Lisa felt something she hadn't felt in years. Anger. Pure, burning anger. Sam, contact General Taylor. Tell him to come to my office immediately. And send a coded message to every human ship commander in the galaxy. Tell them to prepare for new orders. What kind of orders, Admiral? Lisa looked at the star maps on her wall. Somewhere out there were the hidden bases. Somewhere out there was the technology their ancestors had left behind. Somewhere out there was the key to humanity's survival. The kind of orders that change. Everything, she said. The aliens think they broke us. They think we're weak. They think we forgot who we used to be. She turned back to Sam with fire in her eyes. They're about to learn they were wrong. Far across the galaxy, the Zarkan Supreme Commander Chromax received reports of the New Horizons' destruction. He was a large reptile with yellow eyes and sharp teeth. He smiled as he read the news. The humans are learning their place, he told his officers. Perhaps now they will be more careful about where they travel. But Kralmax didn't know about the artifact. He didn't know about the crystal or the images it contained. He didn't know that everything was about to change. The galaxy had lived in peace for 2 centuries. The aliens had enjoyed their comfortable lives built on human bones. But that peace was about to end. Humanity was about to remember who they really were. Dr. Amy Carter worked day and night in her laboratory on Earth. The data from the crystal filled dozens of computer screens around her. She had been studying it for 2 weeks, and each new discovery made her heart race faster. The crystal held secrets that could change the war. It showed the locations of 47 hidden human bases across the galaxy. It contained blueprints for weapons that could destroy entire fleets. Most importantly, it held the key to technology that humans had forgotten they once possessed. Amy, you need to see this, said Dr. Kevin Nash, her research partner. Kevin was a young man with messy black hair who never seemed to sleep. He had been working on the crystal's technical data while Amy focused on the historical records. Amy walked over to his workstation. On the screen was a design for something called a quantum drive. The blueprints showed an engine that could move ships faster than anything in the galaxy. According to this, Kevin said, pointing at the screen, human ships could travel between star systems in hours instead of weeks. We could move entire fleets across the galaxy before the aliens even knew we were coming. Amy studied the design. It was complex, but she could see how it worked. Can we build this? With the right materials, yes. But we'll need to start mining. Operations on Jupiter's moons. The crystal shows that our ancestors built their first quantum drives there. On Titan Base, humanity's largest industrial facility, Chief Engineer Ryan Brooks received new orders from Earth. The orders were simple. build ships using the old blueprints. But these weren't ordinary ships. These were warships designed to fight and win. Ryan stood in the main construction bay, watching hundreds of workers begin their tasks. They were building the first human warship in 3 centuries. The ship would be called the UES Retribution, and it would be massive. 5 miles long, with armor that could stop any alien weapon and guns that could crack planets. Chief Brooks called Maria Santos, his assistant supervisor. Maria was a tough woman with scars on her arms from years of working with dangerous machinery. The metal we need for the hull plating isn't available. The aliens control all the mining rights for that material. Ryan smiled. Not anymore. Look. At this, he showed her a map of the asteroid belt. The crystal had revealed the locations of dozens of automated mining stations that humans had built long ago. The stations were still working, still collecting rare metals and storing them in hidden warehouses. Our ancestors were smart, Ryan said. They knew this day would come. It left us everything we need to fight back. Meanwhile, General Paul Taylor worked in a secret facility beneath the mountains of Colorado. His job was to contact humans, living throughout the galaxy, and prepare them for what was coming. These weren't regular civilians. These were the descendants of survivors who had been hiding among alien populations for generations. Paul was a tall man with gray hair and cold blue eyes. He had spent 30 years in the military, watching aliens treat humans like pets. Now, he finally had a chance to do something about it. His communication system showed hundreds of green lights. Each light represented a human agent in alien space. Some worked as servants in alien homes. Others had jobs in alien governments. All of them had been waiting for this moment. Agent 774, this is command. Paul spoke into his microphone. Report your status, a woman's voice answered. Command, this is Agent 774. I'm currently working in the Zarkan Defense Ministry. I have access to their fleet. Deployment schedules. Excellent. Stand by for new orders. The time for hiding is over. Paul repeated this conversation dozens of times. Each agent had a different role to play. Some would disable alien communication systems. Others would steal ships or sabotage weapons. When the time came, they would strike all at once. On the alien capital world of Vex-High Prime, Queen Zarathil felt uneasy. She was a massive insect, with multiple arms and compound eyes that could see in all directions. She had ruled the Vex-High for 60 years and had never felt threatened. But something was wrong. Her intelligence reports showed that human colonies were going dark. Ships sent to investigate these colonies never returned. The few messages that came back spoke of system failures and strange accidents. Commander Valthak. She called to her military advisor. What is the status of our monitoring stations in human space? Velthak was a smaller insect with silver wings. My queen, we have lost contact with 12 stations in the past month. Each time, the stations reported technical problems before going silent. Technical problems? All at the same time. It does seem unlikely, my queen, but humans are primitive. They lack the intelligence to coordinate such an operation. Queen Zarathil wasn't convinced. She had been alive during the final battles of the human war 3 centuries ago. She remembered how dangerous humans could be when they were desperate. But surely that was impossible now. The humans had been beaten, controlled, and weakened for too long. On Earth, Admiral Kane called a meeting of humanity's highest leaders. They gathered in a room deep underground, protected by the strongest shields available. Around the table sat the heads of every human government, military leader, and scientist. The data from the crystal is clear, Admiral Kane began. We were once the dominant species in this galaxy. The aliens didn't just defeat us in a war. They committed genocide. They destroyed our civilization and made us forget who we were. President Stone, the leader of Earth's government, leaned forward. "What are you suggesting, Admiral?" "I'm suggesting we take back what's ours. The hidden bases are real. The technology works. We can build a fleet that will make the aliens remember why they feared us." "And if we lose?" asked General Martinez, the head of Earth's defense forces. Admiral Kane's eyes were hard as steel. "Then we die fighting instead of dying on our knees. I've watched them kill our people for too long. The New Horizons was just the beginning. They're planning to reduce our population by half." She stood up and activated a holographic display. It showed the entire galaxy, with human colonies marked in blue and alien worlds in red. "Look at this. We have less than 50 worlds. They have thousands. And most of our worlds used to be theirs." The room was silent as everyone studied the display. "The crystal shows us the truth," Admiral Kane continued. "Earth isn't our original home. We came from a place called Sanctuary, a massive ring world hidden in the Veil Nebula. Our ancestors built it as a fortress. If it still exists, it could be the key to our survival." Captain Morrison, who had returned from his mission, spoke up. "Admiral, I've seen the images from the crystal. But are we really ready for this? The aliens have controlled the galaxy for centuries. They have more ships, more weapons, more people. They also have something we don't have," Admiral Kane replied. "They have something to lose. They've grown soft living in peace. They've forgotten that war is about more than numbers. It's about will. It's about desperation. It's about having nothing left to lose." She looked around the room at each face. "I'm not asking you to decide right now. I'm asking you to prepare. Get your people ready. When the time comes, we'll need to move fast." As the meeting ended, Admiral Kane stood alone in the empty room. She thought about the 50,000 people who had died on the New Horizons. She thought about the millions more who would die if humanity remained weak. Outside, the sun was setting over New Geneva. In a few hours, the night shift would begin their work. They would continue building the weapons and ships that would change everything. They would continue preparing for the war that was coming. Far across the galaxy, the first human agent made her move. She was a young woman named Carol Blake, who had worked as a cleaning servant in a Zarkan military base for 10 years. No one paid attention to her. No one suspected that she was anything more than a simple human worker. But Carol had been trained since childhood for this moment. She knew every hallway, every security system, every weakness in the base. When the time came, she would know exactly what to do. The galaxy was about to learn that humans were more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The peaceful days were ending. The war was about to begin. The U.S. Retribution moved through space like a metal mountain. It was the largest ship humans had built in 3 centuries, and Commander Alex Turner stood on its bridge with pride. The ship was 5 miles long and carried enough firepower to level a planet, but more importantly, it carried hope. "Commander, we're approaching the Rigel system," reported Lieutenant Sarah Kim from the navigation station. "The Zarkan base is on the 3rd planet." Alex nodded. The Rigel base was one of the strongest military installations in the galaxy. It protected 12 star systems and housed 50,000 Zarkon soldiers. It was also where the aliens had built their command center for controlling human space. "All stations, prepare for battle," Alex announced. "This is what we trained for. Today, we show the galaxy that humanity is no longer afraid." The crew worked quietly at their stations. These were not ordinary humans. Each one had been enhanced with neural implants that connected them to the ship's systems. They could think faster, react quicker, and work together as one mind. Alex had been chosen for this mission because of his family history. His great-grandmother had been a ship captain during the old human empire. The knowledge and instincts of command were in his blood. Enemy ships detected, called out Weapons Officer Lieutenant Dan Cooper. 20 Zarkan cruisers moving to intercept us. Alex smiled. 20 ships had once been enough to destroy entire human fleets. But that was before humanity remembered how to fight. Fire when ready, Alex ordered. The Retribution's main guns spoke with the voice of thunder. Energy beams that could melt steel reached across space and touched the Zarkan ships. The enemy vessels exploded one by one, their shields unable to stop the advanced human weapons. The battle was over in 4 minutes. 20 Zarkan ships destroyed, with no damage to the Retribution. "Commander," Dan said with surprise in his voice, "their weapons barely scratched our shields." "That's because they're still using the same technology they had 3 centuries ago," Alex replied. "They thought they had beaten us completely. They stopped improving their weapons." The Retribution moved toward the planet's surface. The Zarkon base was a massive complex of metal and stone that stretched for miles. But Alex had no intention of landing troops. This was a message that needed to be heard across the galaxy. "Target the command center," he ordered. "Full power." The ship's main cannon charged with energy. The weapon was based on old human technology that could manipulate gravity itself. When it fired, the beam didn't just destroy the command center. It crushed it, folding the metal and stone into a tiny ball that sank deep into the planet's surface. The rest of the base surrendered immediately. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, Lieutenant Colonel Maria Santos led the liberation of human prison colonies. She commanded a fleet of smaller ships that moved fast and struck hard. Maria was a woman who had lost her parents to alien population control programs. She understood what was at stake, that her target was a moon called Sigma 7, where the aliens kept humans for medical experiments. The moon was covered in laboratories, where alien scientists tested new diseases and treatments on human prisoners. "Colonel, we're in position," reported Captain John Davis, commander of the escort ship UES Vengeance. "The facility has minimal defenses." Maria looked at the data on her screen. The facility held over 10,000 human prisoners, men, women, and children, who had been taken from their families and used as test subjects for years. "Begin the assault," she ordered. "I want every human prisoner freed and every alien scientist captured alive. They're going to answer for what they've done." The attack was swift and brutal. Human soldiers, wearing advanced armor and carrying weapons that could cut through any material, stormed the facility. They had been trained for this moment their entire lives. What they found inside made even the hardest soldiers feel sick. Humans in cages. Humans with strange devices attached to their bodies. Humans who had been subjected to experiments that changed their appearance and abilities. "My God," whispered Sergeant Tony Martinez as he opened a cell containing a dozen human children. "What have they done to us?" The children were afraid and didn't speak. They had been prisoners for so long that they had forgotten what freedom looked like. Maria documented everything she found. The evidence would be used to justify what came next. But she already knew that no justification was needed. The aliens had declared war on humanity long ago. They had just been too arrogant to admit it. On the hidden human world of Sanctuary, Dr. Amy Carter made the discovery that changed everything. The ring world was real, and it was massive. It could hold billions of people and contain technology that was even more advanced than what they had found in the crystal. "Amy, you need to see this," called Kevin Nash from across the research facility. "I've found something incredible." Amy walked over to find Kevin staring at a wall covered in quantum storage devices. Each device was the size of a book, but contained the preserved consciousness of a human being. "These are the leaders of the old human empire," Kevin explained. "They uploaded their minds before the final battle. They've been waiting here for 3 centuries for someone to activate them. Amy touched one of the devices. It was warm, as if the person inside was still alive. In a way, they were. If we activate these, we'll have access to the greatest military minds in human history, she said. They'll know strategies and tactics that we've forgotten. Should we do it? Kevin asked. Amy thought about the destroyed colony ships. She thought about the prison camps. She thought about the billions of humans who had died because their leaders had been too merciful. Yes, she said. It's time for our ancestors to finish what they started. Back on Earth, Admiral Kane received reports from across the galaxy. The first strikes had been successful beyond their wildest dreams. Human fleets were appearing everywhere at once, liberating colonies and destroying alien bases. But the aliens were finally starting to respond. The Federation Council had called an emergency meeting. They were no longer talking about controlling humanity. They were talking about destroying it completely. "Admiral," said Colonel Torres, entering her office with a grim expression, "we've intercepted alien communications. They're mobilizing their entire fleet. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. They're planning to attack Earth directly." "Admiral." Kane looked at the star map on her wall. Red dots showed the movement of alien fleets from across the galaxy. They were all converging on one point, Earth. "How long do we have?" she asked. 6 days, maybe 7. Admiral Kane nodded. She had expected this. The aliens were like all bullies. When their victims fought back, they became even more violent. "Contact all human commanders," she ordered. "Tell them to accelerate their operations. We need to hit them hard before they can organize their attack." But Admiral Kane had a secret weapon that the aliens didn't know about. The quantum communication network that connected all human ships and bases was more than just a communication system. It was a command system that allowed one person to control vast fleets with their thoughts. She walked to the special chamber that had been built beneath her office. Inside was a chair surrounded by quantum interface equipment. When she sat in the chair and activated the system, she could see through the eyes of every human ship. Captain in the galaxy. The aliens thought they were fighting separate human fleets. They didn't understand that they were fighting one enormous organism with a single mind. "This is Admiral Kane to all human forces," she broadcast through the quantum network. "The aliens are coming to Earth. They think they can finish what they started 3 centuries ago. They're wrong." She could feel the thoughts and emotions of thousands of human commanders. They were ready. They were angry. They were united in a way that humanity had never been before. "Remember the new horizons," she continued. "Remember the prison camps. Remember the billions of our people who died because we were too weak to fight back. That weakness is over. Today, we remind the galaxy who we really are. Across the galaxy, human fleets receive their orders. They would not wait for the aliens to attack Earth. They would attack every alien world simultaneously. By the time the alien fleet reached Earth, there would be no alien civilization left to support it. The war was about to reach its climax, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy what 3 centuries of anger could accomplish." Commander Diana Ross stood on the bridge of the UE's Dominator, watching the 3 moons of Zarkon Prime move across the sky. The massive human dreadnought hung in space above the alien capital world, preparing to deliver justice that was 3 centuries overdue. "Commander, the gravity manipulators are ready," reported Chief Engineer Mike Johnson. "We can move the moons into new positions whenever you give the order." Diana nodded. She was a small woman with dark skin and fierce eyes. Her grandparents had been killed in the early days of alien occupation. She had spent her entire life waiting for this moment. "How long until the tidal effects begin?" she asked. "Once we start moving the moons, the planet's oceans will shift within 2 hours. The Zarkon cities are all built on the coastlines. They'll be underwater before they can evacuate. Diana thought about the 50,000 humans who had died on the New Horizons. She thought about the millions more who had died in alien prison camps. The Zarkans had shown no mercy to humanity. They deserved none in return. "Begin the operation," she ordered. "Move the moons." The Dominator's gravity weapons reached out across space and grasped the 3 moons of Zarkan Prime. The moons were each the size of Earth's moon, but human technology made them move like toys in the hands of a child. On the planet below, the Zarkans watched in horror as their moons began to change position. The Supreme Commander Cromax stood in his palace, staring at the sky with his yellow eyes wide with fear. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his scientists. "Humans don't have this technology." "Sir, our records show that humans were primitive when we conquered them," replied his chief advisor. "They had no weapons that could threaten us." Cromax felt the ground shake beneath his feet. The ocean was already beginning to rise. In a few hours, the water would reach his palace. "Contact the human ship," he ordered. "Tell them we surrender. Tell them we'll give them anything they want." But Diana Ross had no interest in surrender. The time for mercy had passed long ago. "Sir, the Zarkan commander is trying to contact us," reported Communications Officer Lisa Park. "Ignore him," Diana replied. "Our ancestors gave them a chance to surrender 3 centuries ago. They chose genocide instead." The first tidal wave hit the Zarkan capital city 2 hours later. The wave was 300 feet high and moved at incredible speed. It swept away buildings, vehicles, and millions of Zarkan civilians in seconds. But the humans weren't finished. As the planet drowned, the Dominator's main guns opened fire. Energy beams that could melt mountains struck the planet's surface, turning rock into lava and creating earthquakes that could be felt on the other side of the world. The proud Zarkan Empire, which had ruled the galaxy for over 1,000 years, was destroyed in a single day, while Diana Ross was destroying Zarkon. Prime, Captain Jake Morrison, led the attack on the Vex-High homeworld. The insect aliens had thought their swarming tactics would protect them. They were wrong. "Captain, enemy ships detected," called out Tactical Officer Robert Chun. "Sensors show over 10,000 Vex-High fighters approaching our position." Jake smiled. The Vex-High Queen Zarathil had sent every ship she had to stop the human fleet. It was exactly what he had hoped for. "Activate the Quantum Command Network," Jake ordered. "Link all ships to my neural interface." Jake closed his eyes and felt his consciousness expand. Suddenly, he could see through the sensors of every human ship in the fleet. He could control their movements with his thoughts. He could fire their weapons with his will. The Vex-High fighters swarmed toward the human fleet like angry bees. There were so many of them that they blocked out the stars. But Jake was ready for them. He thought about the movement patterns he wanted his ships to follow. Instantly, the human fleet began to dance through space, avoiding the enemy attacks. While returning fire with deadly precision, the battle lasted for 6 hours. When it was over, the space around the Vex-High homeworld was filled with the wreckage of 10,000 enemy ships. The human fleet hadn't lost a single vessel. Queen Zarathil watched from her palace as human ships began landing on her world. She had lived for over 200 years and had never felt fear like this. The humans moved with a purpose that terrified her. "My queen," said her advisor Velthik, "perhaps we should try to negotiate." "With what?" Zarathil replied. "They've destroyed our fleet. They've proven they're stronger than us. What could we possibly offer them?" The answer came sooner than she expected. Human soldiers in advanced armor stormed her palace. They moved through her guards like shadows, their weapons cutting through Vex-High Caton as if it were paper. The soldiers didn't kill her. Instead, they placed her in chains and dragged her to a transport ship. She was going to Earth to face trial for crimes against humanity. On Earth, President Rachel Stone addressed the reformed human government. She stood before the Global Assembly, which now included representatives from every human world that had been liberated. Citizens of humanity, she began, today marks the end of an era. For 3 centuries, we lived under the boot of alien oppression. We were told we were weak. We were told we were primitive. We were told we should be grateful for the scraps they gave us. The assembly was silent. Every person in the room had lost family members to alien violence. But we were not weak, President Stone continued. We were not primitive. We were the descendants of the greatest civilization the galaxy had ever known. We had simply forgotten who we were. She activated a holographic display showing the current state of the galaxy. Most of the red dots that had once represented alien worlds were now gray, indicating worlds that had surrendered or been destroyed. The Zarkan Empire is gone. The Vex High Swarm is broken. The Federation Council has dissolved. Across the galaxy, alien species are laying down their weapons and begging for mercy. A representative from the Mars colony stood up. What about the species that remained neutral? The Aetherians and the Luminians? President Stone's expression was cold. There were no neutral species. Every alien race benefited from our oppression. They lived comfortable lives while our people suffered in chains. They watched our children die and did nothing. She paused, letting her words sink in. But we are not like them. We will not commit genocide. We will not destroy entire species. We will be better than they were. The assembly waited for her too. Continue. The galaxy will be reorganized under human leadership. Alien species will be given the chance to prove their loyalty to humanity. Those who serve faithfully will be protected. Those who resist will be eliminated. Meanwhile, General, Paul Taylor was implementing the new order across the galaxy. His agents, who had been hiding among alien populations for generations, were now revealing themselves as the new administrators of conquered worlds. On the former, Zarkan world of Kepler 438b, Agent Carol Blake stood in the planetary governor's office. She was no longer pretending to be a simple cleaning servant. She wore the uniform of a human colonel and held the authority of Earth behind her. Attention, citizens of Kepler 438b, she announced over the planetary communication system. This world is now under the protection of the human hegemony. All former Zarkon laws are void. All former Zarkon officials are relieved of duty. She looked at the group of Zarkon civilians who had been brought before her. They were the former leaders of the colony, and they were trembling with fear. You have 2 choices, she continued. You can accept human authority and work to rebuild this world under our guidance. Or you can resist and face the consequences. Most of the Zarkons chose to accept human authority. They had seen what had happened to their homeworld. They knew that resistance meant death, but some alien species chose to fight. The machine race known as the Collective activated their ancient war protocols and attacked human colonies. They believed their mechanical bodies would give them an advantage over biological humans. They were wrong. The humans had learned to fight machines during their time in hiding. They had developed weapons that could disrupt electronic systems and viruses that could corrupt artificial intelligence. The Collective's rebellion lasted exactly 3 days. Dr. Amy Carter, now Director of Xenological Studies, supervised the processing of captured alien leaders. They were brought to Earth for trial, but the trials were more about documentation than justice. The verdicts had already been decided. Dr. Carter, said her assistant, Dr. Kevin Nash, the Vex High Queen, has requested to speak with you. Amy walked to the holding cell where Queen Zarathul was imprisoned. The massive insect sat in the corner, her compound eyes reflecting the artificial light. You wanted to see me? Amy asked. I want to understand, Zarathul replied in her clicking. Voice, we defeated you. We controlled you for centuries. How did you become so strong? Amy studied the alien queen. You made a mistake. You thought that controlling us made us weak. But oppression doesn't make a species weak. It makes them angry. And angry humans are the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. Zarathul was silent for a long moment. What will happen to my people? That depends on how useful they are to humanity, Amy replied. The workers will be relocated to industrial colonies. The soldiers will be executed. The leaders will face trial. And the children? Amy's expression softened slightly. The children will be educated in human schools. They'll learn to be productive members of the new order. If they serve humanity faithfully, they'll. 1 year after the war began, the galaxy looked completely different. Admiral Lisa Kane stood on the observation deck of the massive orbital station above Earth, watching human ships depart for the farthest reaches of space. The ships were sleek and powerful, carrying the flag of the human hegemony to worlds that had never seen human technology before. Admiral, said Colonel Sam Torres, approaching with the daily reports. The reconstruction programs are ahead of schedule. We've established human governance on over 400 worlds. Lisa nodded without taking her eyes off the ships. Each vessel represented humanity's growing power. The weak, scattered humans who had begged for alien mercy were gone. In their place stood a unified species that controlled the galaxy's destiny. What? About the alien populations? She asked. The Zarkan relocation programs are complete. They've been moved to 12 reservation worlds in the Outer Rim. The Vex-High work colonies are producing materials for our expansion fleet. The smaller species have mostly accepted integration into human society. Lisa turned to face her aide. Sam was a young man who had grown up during the war. He had never known a time when humans were weak. Any resistance movements? Nothing significant. The collective tried to start a rebellion on Titan VII, but our security forces crushed it within hours. The survivors requested permission to serve humanity in whatever capacity we deem appropriate. Lisa smiled. The machine race had been among the most arrogant of the alien species. They had believed their artificial intelligence made them superior to biological life. Now they begged for the chance to serve their biological masters. What about the exploration fleets? She asked. Admiral Morrison's ships have made contact with 17 new species in the Andromeda sector. All have agreed to join the hegemony without resistance. Word of our victory has spread throughout the galaxy. Lisa walked to the communication console and activated the quantum network. Instantly, she could communicate with human commanders across the galaxy. She could see through their eyes and hear their thoughts. Admiral Morrison, report your status, she said. Jake Morrison's voice came through the speakers. Admiral, we've just finished negotiations with the Crystalline Collective. They're offering their entire mineral wealth in exchange for protection under human law. Accepted. What about the species that haven't made contact yet? Most are sending diplomatic missions to Earth. They want to surrender before we find them. Lisa laughed. The galaxy had learned to fear the name human again. But this time, fear would serve a purpose. It would maintain the peace that humanity had fought so hard to achieve. In the capital city of New Geneva, Supreme Commander Paul Taylor oversaw the training of the next generation of human leaders. The children who would inherit the galaxy were being taught the lessons of history. They would never forget what had happened to their people. Remember, Paul told a class of young officers, our ancestors were merciful. They allowed the aliens to live after defeating them in battle. They believed in cooperation and peace. That mercy led to genocide. The young officers listened carefully. They had been born after the war, but they understood the importance of strength. Mercy is a luxury that only the strong can afford, Paul continued. And we can only remain strong by ensuring that no alien species ever again has the power to threaten humanity. A young woman in the front row raised her hand. Sir, what about the aliens who helped us during the war? Paul's expression hardened. There were no aliens who helped us. There were only aliens who waited to see who would win. When they saw that we were winning, they offered their assistance. That's not help. That's opportunism. The lesson was clear. Humanity could not trust any alien species. The galaxy was safe only when humans controlled it completely. Dr. Amy Carter, now in her 70s, worked in the vast archives beneath the Earth's surface. She was documenting the truth about the galaxy's history. Every alien lie was being exposed. Every human achievement was being restored to its proper place in the historical record. Dr. Carter, said her assistant, Dr. Kevin Nash, we finished translating the records from the Vex High archives. The documents confirm what we suspected. The aliens had been planning to reduce human population to 10 million individuals. Amy looked up from her work. 10 million? Out of billions? They called it the final solution to the human problem. They were going to keep just enough humans alive to serve as workers and test subjects. Amy felt the familiar anger rise in her chest. Even after a year of discoveries, the depth of alien cruelty still shocked her. Make sure this information is included in the educational curriculum, she said. Every human child needs to understand what the aliens planned for us. Kevin nodded. Already done. The new textbooks will be distributed to every school in the galaxy. The textbooks told the true story of the galaxy. They explained how humans had once ruled the stars, how aliens had destroyed their civilization, and how humanity had risen again to reclaim their birthright. Children across the galaxy learned to be proud of their heritage and suspicious of alien motives. On the former Zarkan world of Rigel III, Commander Alex Turner supervised the construction of a new human city. The city was being built on the ruins of the old Zarkon capital, using alien labor under human supervision. Commander, said his aide, Lieutenant Sarah Kim, the Zarkan work crews are asking for additional food rations. They claim the current rations are insufficient. Alex looked at the work reports. The Zarkan workers were building at exactly the pace required by human schedules. They were healthy enough to work, but not strong enough to rebel. Denied, he said. The rations are calculated to maintain optimum work efficiency. If they want more food, they can work harder. Sarah made a note on her tablet. Sir, some of the workers have families. Their children are showing signs of malnutrition. Alex turned to face her. Lieutenant, do you remember what these aliens did to human children? They used them for medical experiments. They killed them for sport. They separated them from their parents and raised them as slaves. Sarah's expression became serious. I remember, sir. The Zarkan children are receiving more food than human children got in their prison camps. They should be grateful they're alive at all. This conversation was repeated on hundreds of worlds across the galaxy. Human administrators made decisions about alien lives with the same casual indifference that aliens had once shown toward humans. President Rachel Stone addressed the galaxy from her office on Earth. Her message was broadcast to every world under human control. Citizens of the human hegemony, she began. Today marks the first anniversary of our victory. 1 year ago, we were a scattered, oppressed people. Today, we are the masters of the galaxy. She paused, allowing the significance of her words to sink in. But victory brings responsibility. We must ensure that no species ever again poses a threat to human survival. We must remain vigilant against those who would seek to destroy us. The broadcast showed images of human ships patrolling the galaxy, human cities rising on alien worlds, and human children learning in schools that taught the truth about their heritage. Some may say that we have become too harsh, President Stone continued. They may argue that we should show mercy to our former oppressors, but we have learned the cost of mercy. We have seen what happens when humans trust alien promises. She stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the lights of New Geneva. The galaxy is peaceful now. Children play in parks without fear. Families live together without the threat of separation. Humans travel freely between the stars. This peace exists because we have the strength to maintain it. The broadcast ended with images of human fleets departing for unknown regions of space. The message was clear. Human expansion would continue until every world in the galaxy acknowledged. Human authority. Late that night, Admiral Kane stood alone on the observation deck, watching the stars. Colonel Torres approached quietly. "Admiral, are you concerned about the future?" Lisa considered the question. "I'm concerned about complacency. Our ancestors grew comfortable with their victory. They thought the war was over. They thought they could trust their enemies. And you think we might make the same mistake? I think humans are naturally inclined toward mercy. It's one of our strengths, but it's also our greatest weakness. We feel sympathy for our enemies. We want to believe that others share our values." Torres was quiet for a moment. "What do you recommend?" Lisa turned to face him. "I recommend that we never forget what they did to us. Every human child should know about the new horizons. Every human leader should remember the prison camps. Every human soldier should understand that the aliens will try again if we give them the chance. And if they don't, what if they truly accept human rule?" Lisa smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Then they'll live comfortable lives under human protection. Their children will grow up in a galaxy where humans make the decisions. And maybe, in a few generations, they'll be grateful for the peace we've given them." She looked back at the stars where human ships carried the flag of the hegemony to distant worlds. "The galaxy is quiet now," she said. "The rebellions have ended. The resistance movements have been crushed. From the core worlds to the rim territories, every species understands that humanity is in charge." Torres nodded. "And we intend to keep it that way. Forever," Lisa agreed. "Oh,